Hello, this is Tiffany Hampton. I've recently been working with a few people that have, expressed an interest in learning to play the piano, and so I thought I would just create a couple short videos. This is nothing mind-blowing. This is mostly just for a couple friends that are just kind of starting out and wanted a few tips. So just a little bit about me. I've played the piano since I was a young child, but I have not had formal piano training. I've had just a handful of lessons sporadically throughout the years that I was learning how to play the piano, which were very helpful, but I didn't really have a consistent piano teacher and somebody that taught me how to read notes and even how to use a lead sheet. I didn't even start really using lead sheets until I started getting into more contemporary music that I really needed to have chords and things like that too. So there's a few things I want to talk about though, because I have been director of music at our church since I was pretty young as well. I think I was just like 21 or so when I started doing the music full time at our church, as far as leading, playing, and singing, all of those things. I've played as a musician since I was probably 12 or 13 as the full-time musician here. So when I learned how to play, my dad's pastor, he just put me up on the piano and said, we need a piano player. We don't have a piano player, so we're going to figure this out together. So that's how I learned. There's a few things that my dad did put into me early on, and the music director before me, that are very important, and that's being a musician or being a music director is a calling, and it is a ministry, and you really have to treat it as such. Talent does come into place, perfecting your skill comes into place, but number one priority is to pray about your ministry, and you need to pray before you sing and before you minister to others, because when you are working in the music department, you are going to come under attack by a lot of different things. Some of them may be inflicted on by yourself, and some will be other people, and the devil will really try to attack you because you are that core of the service. When you sing, you are operating under the anointing of God, or you should be. That's the goal, is to operate under the anointing of God. And when that happens, you become a target for the devil to really kind of work on you. So being prayed up, being close to God is number one priority. Also being sensitive to the Spirit. So a lot of people get frustrated with me because I'm not really good at following a plan. And I do try to have a general plan in mind, but you have to be sensitive to the Spirit. You need to know your congregation and know your ministry of the church, because there are things that certain ministers tend to prefer as they're leading into their sermon or even after their sermon, and that is part of it. Making sure that the service flows well. But you need to know your congregation and how they respond to music. I know that there are some songs that I've heard that I really like, but I know my congregation, and I know that they would not respond well to that song. Or maybe I have tried a song and it just went blah. It wasn't a good fit for our church. And that is up to you as the music director to kind of feel after that. And then there have been other songs where I was like, I don't know if this is really going to work, but we're going to try it. And then, it really does work. So you just have to kind of be sensitive, try a few things, and know your congregation and know kind of what ministers to them. Older people, they do tend to still like older songs. So finding ways to incorporate that even with newer songs is very important, because you don't want to exclude a part of your congregation. And to them, that ministers to them, and you still want to include that. Also, following the Spirit in the service. There's been times when I was like, well, I just feel like I really need to sing this song. I don't really know why. Maybe it doesn't even fit in what you're doing. But taking that chance to go ahead and do it. And then sometimes when I step out and do that, then, things start happening, and I'm like, oh, thank God that I did that, because otherwise we would have missed a great opportunity. And then there have been other times where I didn't act on those kind of unctions, and then, the next person will get up and say something that I know that I should have sang that song, I should have sang that. So, just always being sensitive, but the only way you can really be sensitive to the Spirit is making sure that you're as close to God as you can be, in another thing I want to point out, this comes from being a pastor's wife and from being a music director, is if you are on the platform of your church, you represent the pastor, whether you like that or whether you don't. It's important to know what your pastor expects out of you as far as a platform agreement. Anything, the standard of the church must be upheld on the platform. And my approach has always been, there's the standard, and I try to go above that, because you want to be beyond reproach. You really do, because people will lose confidence not only in the ministry but also in you if they see little things that maybe you don't even think about. Maybe you don't have that personal conviction about it, but it's so important to keep a clean platform and to show the church that not only are you under submission to your husband and to the pastor, but you're also under submission to God. And God honors that. And so it's so important. I've heard from other pastors that, maybe a group from another church is going to come in and they didn't even want them on their platform because they don't agree with some of the things that, are allowed in that particular church or something. So when you're up on the platform, you're the first thing that people see when they come into those doors. So you want to be able to present a good picture of what your church is. Not only do you want to be presentable, you want to look nice, but you also want to be very modest. And sometimes when we're playing music and we're worshiping, we are put in places where, especially as women, like if you're raising your hands and you may be jumping around, or if you're me, you are, or if you're sitting down at the keyboard, you need to be conscious. And also the fact that you're at a higher, the elevation of the platform is higher, so people see things that they wouldn't normally see at, face level. So like if you're elevated, your skirts need to be at a good length, because you're going to be able to see more when you sit down and things like that. So these are things to be aware of. These are things that I've learned throughout the years, mostly because I've been in a pastor's home my whole life. And, my dad always asked that I go above and beyond, because even if you don't personally have a conviction against something, maybe somebody in your church does, and you just don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth, or, you just want to be prepared for those situations where, like, if I do start shouting, I don't want people seeing things that they shouldn't see, or something like that. So these are just a few. I know that, we focus on the skill side of playing the piano. It's very important to do that. But a lot of times we don't talk about the spiritual side, and that's just as important. And I know as a music director, I will tend to use people that I feel are humble and anointed more so than people that I feel like have great talent. Now, it's great when you can have both of those things, and that's awesome. And, those are the people you really want. And have been very privileged to have those people in my music team. But the number one priority for me is to find somebody that is teachable. That's very important. That can follow the leading of the Spirit, that can work under the anointing, and then also somebody that is under submission, can take directions, can really get into the flow of the Spirit. And to me, that's the number one characteristic that I look for when I'm looking for people to put on my praise team, when I'm looking for people to really invest in choirs, solos, things like that. Because God will make up the difference in the talent, and there's nothing you can do with somebody that has a lot of talent but that is not humble. It has big ego and doesn't want to take direction from anybody, or just isn't spiritual, or just isn't living the life, and that's part of it. So I hope this was helpful. That's like my first intro video that I feel like this sets the foundation. You know, if you're trying to go into music ministry, or maybe you're just starting out, I feel like this is really important. This is some of the things that have been important to me. And so, anyway, hopefully that was helpful for you.